Welcome to Season 2 of Girl Sense. I'm Maria del Carmen, your host. Today's special guest is Traci Gaynor. Traci received her master's from the School of Professional and Continuing Studies at Springfield College. She's worked in the banking industry for many years as a bank manager with a proven background in organizational management of fiduciary industries, among other distinguished professional skills. She's the chairperson of the AAFPA African American Female Professor Award, which we will indulge momentarily. But first, Traci, welcome to the Girl Sense family.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you've entered. It's going to be just another layer of professionalism, woman empowerment, and I'm so happy that you have joined us.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
So as I mentioned, we're going to indulge in what you're into today, but let's take it back a notch just a little bit.
Okay.
And just tell me a little bit about yourself. So are you a native of Springfield?
Born and raised Springfield, Massachusetts. Grew up on Bay Street area, which is the Hill McKnight area of Springfield. So my whole entire life I spent in Springfield.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. So obviously you went through the schooling there and so forth.
Elementary,
elementary and
junior
everything.
high, junior and high school, yes.
So during that period of your time, knowing what I know about you today, so during that period of time, who were your mentors during that period, during that time?
You know, when I read that question, I really had to think about it because growing up, you know, just doing normal girl things, you know, hanging out with my friends and going to the girls' club, dancing and doing things, and really never thought about who my mentor would be until I've actually reached probably like 25, 26, and that was absolutely my grandmother.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was the influence?
Well, my grandmother was a seamstress by trade, and she was actually one of the first African-American women to own her own upholstery shop, which opened up on State Street in the early 70s, like around 1970, 71. So her and her sisters actually, and her son, actually established that business, which they stayed in business for about 25 years.
Wow.
But as a woman, a black woman, my grandmother was very patient, very engaged in the community, and just made wonderful friends and wonderful connections through her business and just definitely through her personality. So definitely
So there's absolutely no doubt. Now I understand.
Yes.
I'm getting to understand just a little bit better now.
Yes.
So did you always know what area you wanted to be professionally during your childhood, or did you tap into different industries, or did you think, oh, I'm going to work for grandma one day? Or like, what did you kind of aspire yourself to be during that period of time?
Well, I actually wanted to be a race car driver.
Oh, wow.
I absolutely admired Mario Andretti for some reason.
Okay.
I was always a good driver from the time I was 12 years old. And that was one of the aspirations that I have. That never came to fruition, but I ended up working with my grandmother in her shop, so I learned how to sew, and I learned how to use one of those power machines, which they probably run about 50 miles an hour. That's how powerful those industrial machines are. So I learned how to make draperies and slip covers and things like that. So part of me thought I was going to be a seamstress because I kind of followed my grandmother to my early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you take the turn?
I took the turn probably around 22. I have my first job. I was actually hired as an assistant manager for, wasn't rape learners back in the day.
Yes,
so
I remember.
That was my first experience with working with the public, being in a leadership role, supervisory role, and actually it was an African American female who gave me that first start just right off the bat. So I kind of advanced from there, did a lot of retail jobs as a manager. I actually was one of the first black women or African American women to sell cars too.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So you ended up selling cars.
Yeah, I ended up selling cars as well. Like 1990, early 90s, I was selling Fords, yes.
How exclusive is that?
Very, very, and it was very challenging work and being the only female on the floor.
Right.
And,
I don't think I ever remember seeing a female anytime that I went to purchase a car.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever have.
Yes. So that was very challenging. And and actually groomed me and helped me to get some of my backbone, if you will. Because
absolutely,
yeah,
you need that.
definite.
Negotiation skills.
Yes, and
absolutely.
kind of pushing your way through to try and get what you want and kind of accomplish some of your goals and meet goals, because that was one of the first jobs that I had where meeting goals actually meant your livelihood.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then fast forward, and you went to school. And what was the did you stick to the major that you started with, or did you deviate?
Well, actually, when I got out of high school, I only did one semester of college, because actually my career was going so well that I kind of said, I don't need college right now. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it could have been a better decision that I made for myself back then, but I didn't really want to pursue college until probably my mid-30s that I decided to go back to school and finish my degree.
And, I can relate to that because, I'm 47, so even like back then, and I say back then, but even, as I was younger, I just remember advancing without the degree, and then being in HR, you're kind of like, well, I'm doing this. There was no incentive because I knew what people were making. I'm like, but, so I'm with you. So I had returned as an adult. To go back. So I understand that. And then so knowing where you are today, which we will get to that, but who today do you see as mentors, or even if it's peer mentors? Like in today's world, you said, growing up, you were with your girlfriends and so forth. So it seems that it was more of a collaborative community type setting kind of growing up. So kind of everyone pushed everyone as you grow, as you were developing into your adulthood. However, I'm sure there became a time, because I know there's a time where that starts to disappear. So when you saw that community sense wasn't really there, or how it used to be, what did you internalize? Like, how did you internalize? Who do you turn to? Did you turn back to grandma? Was it a professor in school? Like, who did you have at that point, and who do you have today?
I love that question. And absolutely, if I think back, I was, not to say anything negative about my friends, but I was always, I want to say, ahead of them. I've always had more drive than my friends, always had more ambition than my friends, always wanted to create a better environment for us, even though we came from a place that, people would say is kind of negative, or look at negative from a hardship situation. But I was always trying to create a better space for us. So I think once I reached my mid-20s, seeing that my friends weren't coming, they did not recognize that drive and that desire to not stay stuck in the same. It's time to grow, it's time to advance, it's time to make a difference in your life, so that people coming behind us can see that it's okay to make those mistakes. It's okay to come from where you come from, but we need to move on. Coming where I come from and having some of the hard experiences that I had, today I can honestly say my mom is my mentor, but my daughter. My daughter, because she had a little bit more of opportunities that I had, but I didn't even realize that I was able to give her or pass something on to her coming where I come from, and not even realize how I impacted my daughter's life. My daughter graduated from Putnam Valedictorian, which was amazing, and I cannot tell you how proud I am. She's 23 years old, she's working on a master's degree, and she's a nurse now at Manchester.
Very nice.
Yes, so my daughter right now, though she doesn't know it, sometimes she's like, Ma, I embarrass her sometimes, but she's definitely my mentor, and she's 23.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yes.
And I'll get to that, but I want to again circle or go back to something you said earlier when you said, well, my friends didn't have that drive.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, when I asked who were your mentors then, and now, who are your mentors now, that was the answer to the question. You had it already in you.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew that even with the chaos that may have been going, whether it was fun chaos,
yes.
or not so fun chaos, you knew amongst that dysfunction per se that there was something more. Somehow you learned that, whether it was a natural thing or you saw something maybe from your grandmother or whomever.
Definitely.
But you saw something. So you've been your own cheerleader for a very long time.
Yes.
So it's more of a natural thing for you.
Absolutely.
And so now you're seeing the fruit of your labor through your daughter.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Now you're seeing the fruit of your labor through your daughter.
Absolutely.
So I commend that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for that. So you were a bank manager for many years. You also serve as a volunteer, mentor, or a board member for several programs in Springfield. And those programs vary from the Senior Center program at the Urban League, the Boys and Girls Club, Friends of the Homeless, and the YMCA. I don't, once again, ever remember knowing of a female bank manager, much less an African American female bank manager. So were you all, where did that come from? Like you said seamstress, race car, and then you've been a bank manager.
Yes. I just think my people skills, the desire to bring people together has always been innate in me. It's just something about seeing people engage or interact together, and I always felt like I had something to bring to the table. Now, growing within the banking industry, starting off as a teller, so moving myself up, advancing, but the more I advanced, the more I noticed that I was the Lone Ranger. So being the only African American female as an assistant manager, then becoming a manager and going to managers' meetings, and I'm the only one that is sitting in that room amongst anywhere between 15 and 25 people, being in training and leadership programs, being the only African American female in those programs. So noticing that and understanding what I know I can bring to the table and how natural it was for me to kind of stop and say, make people kind of take notice to what's happening around them so that they have a better thought process as to how we're going to make differences and changes. And that's something that I've always wanted to do. Trying to follow a structure of bureaucracy within corporate world is challenging as itself, and you try to follow the rules but still be yourself.
Right.
So it's
a lot to juggle.
Yes.
It was a lot to juggle.
I'm feeling that restraint.
And I felt that.
Yes.
I felt like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Because you're so conditioned, right? As a minority female, you're so conditioned. So with that said, the hottest topic these days is STEM. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So first of all, having young girls interested in math.
Yes.
Or young children in general, but young females interested in math is one thing, and or sciences, correct? But to have, and this is what's striking, because there aren't many minority female mentors whose profession is within the math and sciences that young folks can turn to. So they're far and few. And so, this is another reason why, I enjoy doing what I do, because you're at arm's reach.
Yes.
If a youth, I want to get better at math, or how can I go into banking? This is what this is all about. Because I also see myself, it's, in the third, fourth grade, where math was never my thing. It wasn't, ironically, until I got to college that I started connecting dots.
Yes.
But until then,
Yeah.
I'm like, you live in limbo
Yeah.
with this stuff, you know?
Absolutely.
So, you know, what an honor to actually have, when I was doing my research, you know, an African-American bank manager, like,
Yeah.
that was, that's not even a sentence in a paragraph,
Absolutely.
you know, growing up. So, you know, once again, what an accomplishment that is.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
So, is there still a dream job that you still dream about?
Yes. Now, I can actually say through my developmental stages, through my banking, through my volunteer work, through after-school programs, working with kids, through going over to the Urban League and talking to the seniors about their finances, and being a part of the Friends of the Homeless and watching different dynamics happen, seeing even some of my friends that I grew up with come through that door, knowing that at one point they had an opportunity to be different. But I know my dream job is to be able to be a diversity and a leadership consultant for organizations that that are having difficulties getting their staff to produce.
Okay.
I really believe it is a cultural dynamic,
Yes.
and that competency piece that is missing from the corporate world. I don't care what industry that you're in, that is lacking. Then you might as well, to me, be backpedaling, and you're thinking you're moving forward, but you're backpedaling. Through my research, then my master's degree, research has shown that 67% of the U.S. population will be Hispanic by the year of 2030. And the biggest challenge any organization is going to face is managing their diverse workforce population. So that is my goal. That is one of my dream jobs, if you will, is to be able to connect employees to their employees, one difference at a time.
That is absolutely wonderful. It's wonderful. It's appealing. I know it needs to be done sooner rather than later, especially in today's climate. However, when you really think about it, it's also sad.
Oh, very.
It's also very, very
And
sad
frustrating.
and frustrating.
Very.
And why? Why
Yeah.
do we need to orient one human being how to treat another human being? Because at the end of the day, we're just humans.
Yes, that's right, all of us.
All of us.
Yes.
So, you know, as invigorating as it is, you know, the job role, and that is truly a dream job, to be able to, you know, that's like bringing peace to the world, if you ask me. So,
Definitely.
you know what I mean? If we do that,
Yes.
we have a chance for peace.
Definitely. Oh, definitely.
So I absolutely love that. And what are some of your personal rewards that you have gotten from your community efforts? Because I know you've been involved, and I know you just mentioned that you love bringing in your skills as far as your finances. So do you bring that to the Boys and Girls Club? Like, how does that work? What's your piece?
Well, the reward piece comes when I get called back. That is definitely a reward in its own, when someone says, oh yeah, Traci was here yesterday, and or last week or last month. Let's call Traci again, because you did a great job with introducing, you know, financial literacy to after school. And honestly, working with kids, again, you never know what your leaps and bounds if you don't challenge yourself. I've never thought that I would work with kids.
Okay.
When I was asked to go into an after-school program with second and third graders, I'm like, there's no way. I cannot do this.
Right.
But from the time I took the program that I was handed to sit down with these kids, and they're sitting around me and I have their full attention, it just became so natural to give and to teach. And I think as leaders who have had an opportunity to learn and had things given, it's our responsibility to give it back.
It really is. It absolutely really is. And it is the responsibility to give back, because first and foremost, let's just pick any topic, but since we're speaking about finance, it isn't a conversation that necessarily our culture speaks around the table. It isn't one that comes up in a conversation.
Yes.
For the simple fact that the parent themselves might not understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So why would they bring it up to their, you know? So it is. It's like, it's always like an elephant in the room. Like, you know, when we talk finance, you know, everyone kind of turns their head.
Yeah.
So for you to go in, and you said second and third grade, that's excellent. To make it a conversation that perhaps, you know, if not asked at home, at least you're giving them that opportunity, at least an option that, you know, throw it out there. You know, this is important.
Yes.
You know, this is kind
the
of like
awareness. I mean, you have, even being in the banking, there, you have no idea how many women that once their husband's deceased, these women don't even know how to balance their own checkbook because they've never had that desire or that need or to do it. My husband did it all. My husband took care of all the bills. And I'm sitting across from this 75-year-old woman that wants to come in and pull all of her money out of her IRA, and she does not understand the complications of what that means because she wants to buy her grandkids Christmas presents. So providing that information in that moment, it again, is another reward and say, wait a minute, let's think about what you're going to do right now, and let's actually get you some help if you're not understanding how to balance your checkbook or what it means for you to do a withdrawal, how to use this debit card or ATM card. So the educational piece is not my job just to sell the products or to provide a service. I have to educate.
Yes,
and remove the ignorance from our community. And ignorance is not necessarily a bad thing. It's an opportunity for us, again, is to provide.
Right. And I come from a place, first and foremost, it's from the Puerto Rican culture. And so I guess I'll just speak from my household growing up. Bank? What's a bank?
Yes.
You know,
like
what's the mattress?
Yes.
It was the mattress, you know, and there was, you know, here and there family business or whatever, but it was always a child's mattress because who's going to look in the child's mattress? You know, so so when checks, when I learned about checks, I thought, perhaps, what do you mean? This is not money. This is a piece of paper. Like, who in my family wrote checks? No one. You know, I heard about him, but so it all depends what your background is and so forth, and what you've been introduced to and so forth. So it wasn't until, obviously, you know, my first math or my early math in class that you kind of like learn. But at first, it's like it's just these ideas that are floating, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to jump right into and finish our segment with this wonderful program that you put on last year with regards, or was it this year? Just this year.
Last month.
Last month. Oh my goodness. Last month. And it's the African American Female Professor Award Ceremony.
Yes.
Where did this stem from? Why was this important to you? What did you get out of it? And where do you see yourself a year from now?
My goodness. My goodness. I think the origination or the feeling to come up with this award ceremony actually came from my banking days, reflecting on being the only African American female in a room full of Caucasian leaders who are making comments around the table and not really aware of the implication of what that could mean. And they're just going about their meeting, not really paying attention. That's one of the starts. And then actually, once I started my bachelor's degree and once I started my master's degree, one moment there was a professor, she's from Boston, her name is Janine Spinola Taylor. She was my professor, and I didn't even realize how valuable of a attribute that is to have an African American female. Because in one moment I'm struggling with concept, I'm struggling with my research, and here I am acting a certain way, and the way she spoke to me was exactly what I needed, and only an African American female could understand those dynamics in that moment. And voila, how important, how valuable it was for her to be able to relate to who I was as a African American female in that moment. So my research led me to see, well, what are the dynamics of African Americans in higher ed? And according to the national education statistics, 6% are African American within higher ed, and only, or of color, 2% are African American men and 1% are women. So I know I'm not going to change that number, but I wanted to say thank you and celebrate and say, I see you. This is a powerful presence that you have in the world of higher education, and then hopefully bring attention to our college leadership and see how valuable of a tool that awareness could be to have that balance of African Americans within the higher ed.
My goodness. My goodness.
Yes.
And how many were honored this year?
We had 5.
5.
Yes.
5 honorees.
5 honorees this year.
Unbelievable.
Did an inspiration award, and we also had a legacy award for Dorothy Pryor. I think her middle name it begins with a J. I can't call her middle name, but she's 94 years old, and she was at Stick as a professor, and she had some strong influence at Stick as an African American.
Sure.
Graduated from Fisk University, one of the first African American women to be on the board of trustees at Stick. So a lot of firsts that I was able to recognize for the African American Female Professor Award.
And yet another another cohort of women that we are able to carve out and put the spotlight on them because there's so many.
Yes.
And they're for so many reasons that we can carve out on many but professors.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just didn't know.
No, yes.
I just didn't know. When you spoke those percent top, I had no idea. Absolutely no idea.
And how important is awareness? And that's the only way that you begin to make changes, to bring that awareness.
Well, I thank you very much for coming on the show. You have inspired me. I look forward to
the Women on the Move.
The Women on the Move with Janine Fondant.
Yes,
that's just another project that we're all working on.
Yes.
And I'm happy to be a peer of yours working on that.
Thank you. I'm happy to be yours too.
But for your ceremony for the upcoming year, I look forward to being there that next year and to see what else you embellish.
Thank you so much. 2018, the African American Female Professor Awards is going to be another hit, and I know I'm going to continue to make history with that program.
Absolutely.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
I'm Maria del Carmen, your host. This grassroots show is taking root. Visit girlsense.com for information about our guest. Join us again for more Girl Sense.